It's going to be coming out for the Nintendo 3DS next year. Fire Emblem Fates, and we're taking a look at Conquest, which is the Nor path that you can choose.
That's right. So
Really looking forward to showing folks this because I'm Team Nor myself.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump right in, but to give a brief recap for anybody who hasn't seen a prior segment, we're about to play a chapter out of the Nor path. That is what happens if you choose to, obviously, side with the Kingdom of Nor. Now, you're Corrin. You've grown up in the Kingdom of Nor in isolation. You've grown up your whole life thinking that your Norian siblings are actually your siblings, that King Garen is actually your father, which isn't the best thing, but it's what you thought was the truth.
Yeah.
And basically something happens in the prologue. You end up in Hoshiden custody, and you find out the truth of your birth. You were actually a Hoshiden prince or princess, stolen at a very young age, and taken to the Kingdom of Nor. So once you have discovered the truth, you get to choose kind of which path you want to go, and it's a very emotional decision, obviously.
It's a tough one, yeah.
It's a tough one once you are familiar with both sides, but the one we're going to look at now is Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, and this is what happens if you choose to side with the Kingdom of Nor. So, we've just returned Prince Xander, the Crown Prince of Nor. He's next in line for the crown. He's talking to King Garen, kind of filling him in on what's happened, saying that they finally recovered their long-lost brother Corrin. They brought him back. And King Garen would theoretically be happy about this, right?
You'd think so.
Right?
I feel like there's not a lot that makes him happy.
No, he's
only
a
got
hard
the
one to
one
please.
face.
He is. So he doesn't react the way maybe Corrin and Xander were hoping he would react. He's like, why did you come back? You're not really a Norian. And obviously, I love Elise. She's like, Daddy, why? Why would you say that?
So wait, you have chosen to come back with the Nor family, and Garen is just like, nope.
Yep.
You still can't make your dad happy. Your dad happy.
Yeah, you've chosen. You're like, I'm a Hoshiden prince, sure, but I love my Norian siblings. They're the ones I grew up with. I'm going to choose to kind of go with the Kingdom of Nor and try and fix this corrupt kingdom from within. And all of your siblings are really happy about it. They really love you, but King Garen's just like, how can I trust you now that you know you're a Hoshiden? So that's not so great when you just made a heartbreaking decision. And then, of course, Iago, who also looks like just the swellest guy ever, is basically saying, as far as we know, you might try and assassinate King Garen on behalf of your Hoshiden siblings, so we should really just nip you in the bud while we can. But King Garen's going to give you a chance. He's going to consult the great dragon Anankos, and your fate is in Anankos' hands?
And claws?
Claws?
Yeah.
However you want to.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. No spoilers here. You have to find that out for yourself. So here they're just trying to talk to Garen, convince him that it's all going to be okay.
I really love the relationship that you have with your siblings because that really helps explain why maybe you would choose the Nor path because the siblings that you've been raised thinking they're actually your blood relatives, they're all really good people and they're not really that happy with the way their kingdom has turned out either. So you're thinking, okay, if something happens to Dad and maybe we could take over, we could make this a decent place to be again and a kind of a friendlier kingdom. But it would be awful if you never had contact with again and maybe you're thinking, okay, if I go the Hoshido path, these wonderful people I grew up with, I'm never going to have contact with again. I'm kind of leaving them in an unfortunate situation, still being stuck there.
You can
It's true.
understand.
That's what makes it so interesting, is that it's like you said, it's not just black or white, good or evil. You're choosing to side with very good people, but living under a very cruel ruler.
And you can understand why Garen is a little reluctant to take you back since you now have sort of chosen the path of fixing everything wrong in Nor. Maybe he's not really... I think he knows he's the problem.
Yeah. And so here, Garen's trying to kill Corrin. Xander steps in and is trying to protect his brother, and Corrin is saying, no, don't hurt Xander, for me. I'd rather you hurt me instead. But here, we're going to see him consult Anankos. And just so, for anyone who's worried about spoilers, I hate spoilers as well. This is early on in the game, so we're not giving away too much, don't worry. Here, he's gonna ask his mythical dragon friend for help.
As you do. I often wish I had a mythical dragon friend to help me make serious life
To
decisions.
each their own. And so he's received word from Anonkos
He says.
that he's gonna let Corrin live. You know, he woke up on the right side of the bed today, so he's gonna let his son live.
He's a generous father.
But of course, he wouldn't be King Garen if there weren't stipulations. So he's gonna make Corrin prove himself before he welcomes him back into the family. And what better way than to single-handedly stop a rebellion? That's fair, right?
Yeah, just go squash a small rebel alliance, whatever it
Sure.
is.
You know, nothing to it. It's only his second battle he's ever been in his whole life, but he can probably handle it.
Yeah, it's actually thinking that you're, as a character, either as the prince or princess when you're starting out, you've been kept in such isolation. You don't have a lot of life skills or fighting skills. This is kind of a tough situation for you, no matter which side you choose.
It's true.
What I find interesting about this is, like, you've chosen the Norian path, and the very first thing that you have to do is you have to go out and you have to squash this rebellion. We're going to see later on that if you choose the Hoshido path, things just turn out differently.
It's a little different. You're not squashing rebellions. You're doing this and that. You're, you know, bringing medicine or doing things a little more Hoshiden.
So right from the start, after you make this critical decision, you already see, like, your life path is going in a different direction than it would have
Yeah,
otherwise.
for anybody who plays both versions, you will see how very drastically different they are. That one decision changes everything. It changes the kind of life that Corrin has. It changes what happens to all of his siblings from both sides and what happens with the fate of the world. So it's really important decision you should give a lot of thought to.
Yeah, and it can be a little heartbreaking too when you're running into certain characters, and depending on what choice you made, they're going to respond to you really differently. And you could have somebody, like, say you try out both paths, so you get the whole experience here, and take a look at this conflict from both directions. This favorite character of yours who really bonded with, suddenly you're on the other side of the conflict, and it's like, we can't be bros anymore. This isn't going to work out.
So I just want to point out, this is King Garen's smile. And
I was going to say.
It's
That
kind
is
of
unsettling.
creepy.
It's like he's trying so hard to pull the muscles back into the shape of a smile. He's like, he's
not
almost
something
got
he's
it.
used to doing. So I want to click away from that scary smile.
I'm glad he doesn't smile a lot. I don't want to see that much more.
But here's Prince Xander. He overheard kind of an evil moment of King Garen being like, haha, Corrin will never survive this test. You know, serves him right, traitor of Nor. And Xander's like, wow, that's dad.
This
That
is
makes
why
sense.
You shouldn't say these things out loud, I think. Like,
Yeah.
certain evil plots you keep to yourself until they're resolved.
Yeah.
It's probably a smarter way to go.
It pains me, but I'm going to click away from Prince Xander now. Okay, I'm done. They say it's not so bad that he's not your brother. Maybe? Just me? All right.
They'll work out. Yeah.
All right, so now Corrin is going to go off into the Devil's Bog, which sounds really warm and
It
cuddly.
sounds fine.
You
It's-
know?
I think it might actually be the location of the Norian family vacation home.
Yes. So he's going through the Devil's Bog in the woods of the Forlorn. And that is Nor. That is how Nor rolls.
Just weekending at the Devil's Bog, go fishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that Corrin's ever really left the castle grounds. And first taste of the real world he gets is forlorn woods and devilly bogs. So things aren't going so well for Corrin. Of course, he's got Lilith with him. We won't give any spoilers about Lilith, but it's his friend. It's his helper.
And it's good. He's going into this alone, with the exception of Lilith.
Yes.
And he has to single-handedly go squash this rebellion
Yeah.
all by himself.
Otherwise, he kind of betrayed his birth family for nothing. It's kind of a raw deal.
Yeah.
Now that we're getting into this, for folks who've never played a Fire Emblem game, we probably should give them like a real quick overview of like what kind of game this is once they get into like combat and the action of the game as well.
Well, sure. Yeah. So we're going to see in just a second. It's going to go into a sort of a turn-based strategy, tactical kind of battle thing. So you're going to see the screens broken up into grids. You'll move your units and then attack. So your turns are like move, attack, move, attack. The entire game is built around you maneuvering your forces and the enemy maneuvering his forces. There are a lot of strategic subtleties that we're going to go into as we get deeper into this battle. But like, you know, at the very heart of it all, it's just you alternating turns like chess. You're moving, but then you're attacking, just alternating. The subtleties are going to come out in just a few moments.
Yeah, so you
This is
see,
a great person to have your first battle ever with.
yeah, Korn runs into a Faceless, which are really powerful enemies, and he runs into a few of them. So yeah, he's a little flustered.
A little overwhelmed.
He's a little flustered. But he's all alone. Or is he?
Now, this is the thing that I like about the Norpath. You know, it feels so dark and it feels so brooding and lonely, but at its heart, there's this, like, the community, the family. There's still that togetherness that binds all of the children together. And in this case, you've got Felicia, who's Corin's direct servant, joining him because she doesn't want him to go off alone.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like you said, it's a dark, it's a not the brightest kingdom to live in, but you have these really strong relationships that help get you through. And this is Felicia. If you are playing as the male avatar, Felicia will be your helper. And if you are playing as a female avatar, you'll actually have Jacob. So even the decision of whether to play as a boy or a girl kind of affects which units you have in your party and little things like that. So every decision counts.
Yeah, it's one of the first decisions you make when you're creating your avatar, and already that has a significant shape, like an impact on how your game is going to play out.
So Felicia's coming to help, and Corn reminds her, like, oh, that's sweet, Felicia, but I thought Anonko said I had to do this on my own. And she just forgot that, so.
She's so sweet, though. Her heart's always in the right place.
What I love about Felicia, too, is that she's kind of a clumsy maid. She's not such a great maid, but she's a beast on the battlefield, so. All right, together, they can do this.
All right,
so we're about to jump into battle. And I'm just going to prepare my units. If you talk amongst yourselves.
So, again, the first thing that we're going to see as soon as we come back is the battle map. All of the red units are the enemy units. You'll see them on the screen, on the map. You'll see your units, the blue units. They're going to be horribly, horribly outnumbered at first, with just 2 forces on your side. And I don't even know how many of the nameless, faceless monstrosities surrounding you. So we're going to see how that goes. This is going to be rough at first.
It is.
I think one of the things I really love about the Fire Emblem series in general is just how much strategy goes into your decisions on the battlefield. It's not a matter of like, I hit you, you hit me, I hit you, you hit me, one of the monsters goes down. There's so much here, variation with your units, depending on who you've got with you in your battle. Folks are going to have different weapons, they're going to have different ranges of movement. Some folks are going to be really tanky, others are going to be folks you need to keep in the background. But you really have to put a lot of thought into, okay, where am I going to maneuver all my different units on the map here? And sometimes even like, okay, who's going to be next to each other, who's going to be paired up, because that can have a really big impact on how the battle actually goes for you.
Yeah, and the weapons that you're equipped with are going to have a big effect on the battle as well. There's a long-standing tradition in the Fire Emblem series of the weapons triangle. Which weapons are strong against which other weapons? So swords are strong against axes, axes are strong against lances, lances are strong against swords. And so there's this sort of rock, paper, scissor decision-making that you have to go through when you see what your enemy is equipped with and you know what you're equipped with. You want to find the right weapon to go into battle to make sure that you have an advantage over the enemy and make sure that you're protected against enemies who have an advantage over you. So there's a lot of work that you have to do on placement and a lot of attention that you have to pay not just to the shape of the battlefield itself, but to the enemy's makeup and the other units on the screen.
And of course, like in true RPG fashion, when you finish a battle, you're going to get experience. And that's going to also really change, you know, how your units are performing, how you maybe want to customize them, level them up, get them ready to go for other battles. Because there's a lot of control you have over your party and who's going where, what they're doing, how they're growing as well.
Sure, and the interesting thing is that another thing that sets these two versions apart is the difficulty. So the Norpath, that's going to be for people who are really familiar with Fire Emblem or with tactical RPGs. The maps are going to be more difficult, and there's not actually going to be places where you can grind for gold or experience. So you have to be really strategic, and for anybody looking for a nice challenge, they're going to find it here. And not to say that the Hoshido path is easy or anything, but it's a little bit easier. The maps aren't quite as hard, and you do have the option of grinding for golden experience. So that's another thing that kind of sets the paths apart.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't get to grind for experience, every decision that you make about who you level up and which character you develop is much more critical here because you don't have the opportunities to hit everybody's level max to raise them to their top capacity. You have to make very clear decisions about who you're going to commit to.
Yeah, there's not just experience points all around, great weapons all around. You have to be really tactical.
And this is critical here because like one of the hallmarks of the Fire Emblem series is the whole permadeath situation. Granted, you can play with permadeath turned on or permadeath turned off, but with permadeath on, if you lose a character in the battlefield, they're gone for good.
Until you reset, because you can't let that happen.
Yeah, that's my playstyle for Fire Emblem.
Yes.
I'll play with permadeath, but the minute someone dies, it's like
over.
power
Reset.
button.
This is
Sorry.
a
Not gonna
serious
fly.
ethical decision here. Someone like if dead is dead, you know, if you lose to someone on the battlefield, I feel like you have to press on no matter how much you miss that person, how much you invested in them.
I can't.
That's
You
a
have to
valid
go
way
on.
to play, but no.
Oh.
But no. So, somebody, I love Silas. Silas is about to show up here, and he comes out of nowhere, and Corin doesn't recognize his face right away. Silas is pretty exuberant, though. He's like, "Oh, Silas, I finally caught up with you. How are you?" And Corin just says, "Who are you? Thanks for the help, but what?"
And now you can see the moment his heart breaks.
It's awkward, but it's familiar. I sympathize with Corin. Names just fly out of my head,
It's
faces,
true.
people, things.
So, Silas, keep Silas in mind because we're going to take a look at the Hoshido path tomorrow. We're actually going to run into Silas on the Hoshido path as well. And as you will see, your interaction with him is really, really different on the Hoshido path because he's a Norian knight. So here, he's all smiles and how are you, but it's a little tenser when you meet him on the Hoshido path. But here, Silas tries to remind you like, hey, we used to be childhood friends. You know, it was for a short while, but you were very young and you always wanted to leave the Northern Fortress, so I snuck you out one day, and they threatened to kill me. You made them stop, but I was kicked out of the kingdom. But our friendship meant so much to me that I always wanted to kind of come back and find you again. That's why I became a knight. And then it's awkward because Corin
It's so
doesn't
sad thinking,
remember
like,
him.
Your father threatened to kill me. My father threatened to kill a lot of people.
You're
Yeah,
gonna
you
have to
gotta
be
be
more
more specific. But once Silas kind of reminds him about the whole saving his life thing, Corin remembers it, and he's very happy to see him again. So it's a really sweet reunion eventually. And now he's gonna help you, and Elise shows up too because she's not gonna just let her big brother who she loves go into this alone, so she kind of ran out of the castle to catch up and help as well. Not that she asked anyone. Elise has a mind of her own. She's gonna do what she wants.
Yeah, I love how finding out about your past doesn't change anything for your siblings. They still love you just as much, and they decide, it doesn't matter where you're from. We grew up together. We put up with the same kind of unfortunate childhood. And
It's
they still
true.
want to protect you and look
They
out
don't
for
skip
you.
a beat. Elise doesn't care who you were born to. You're her big brother, and she loves you, and she's gonna go run through the woods to find you if she has to.
And you're not so outnumbered now, you know?
And you're
Before,
outnumbered.
it's just the two of you. Now you're starting to see your family and friends rallying behind you.
So all those relationships that you built up while you were in Nor are now kind of paying off because they're gonna help save your tail.
And actually, speaking of relationships, that's one thing that's really fun about the Fire Emblem series, how you can actually cultivate relationships between your characters, in large part based on how you decide to send them out into battle and who they happen to be fighting next to.
I think we're going to see a little bit of that almost immediately. When two characters are placed side by side in battle, they'll start to build up a sort of a support level between the two of them. They develop a relationship. The longer they're there, the more that support level increases, and you can foster that relationship between them to make them stronger on the battlefield as they're side by side.
Another interesting thing is I put these two characters side by side, so
Wow.
well, Corin destroyed
Nice.
that faceless, but if he hadn't, Felicia could have actually gone in there and gotten an extra hit. Now, normally in Fire Emblem, or like in Awakening, if you put characters side by side or if you paired them up one on top of the other, there would be kind of a random chance whether they would fight on each other's behalf or defend. This time, they've kind of broken those two up. If you place 2 units side by side, the supporting character might come in and get in an extra attack. Arthur.
Oh, Arthur.
We'll get to Arthur in a second. But if
his
you stack them
magnificent
up, if you stack them up, the supporting character might defend. So you have a tighter control over that strategy.
I like what that does to your strategy overall, because then you really have to focus on who you put at the front, who you put behind the lines, where each unit is placed becomes much more critical now.
So Elisa's retainers have finally caught up with her. She kind of ran off ahead of them because that's what she does.
Impetuous.
But they finally caught up with her, and they are. That's the thing about Fire Emblem for me, is all of the characters, and especially in this game, all of the characters are so distinct. They have their own story, their own personality, and you just grow to love them so much that it makes the choice that you make in your interaction with them mean so much. And like you said, if you do choose to let them fall in battle, it's really going to hurt, because it's not just this blank unit, generic knight. It's this person who you've gotten to know over the course of several chapters.
But you'll honor their memory and not reset.
No, you reset, and then you don't have to miss them.
I'm
That's
with
how
Arthur
life
on this
works,
one.
right?
Some kind of monster. You just don't let them die.
Really.
And those support relationships that you build up, like you get conversations between the characters that allow you to see more about them, learn more about how they relate to each other, about their backstories. So you get to develop not just a unit, as you were saying, but you start to develop a relationship with them as well. You know, as a player, you start to find the characters that you love, not because they're, you know, archers or Pegasus Knights or whatever. You develop the relationship because you care about their story. At least I do. You know,
Sure, yeah.
I make a lot of bad tactical decisions because I want to keep these two people together to see how their story builds out.
Right. And so here we just found out we're back into the battle, but Elise kind of tipped her hand and said, you know, don't thank me. Xander's the one who was worried about you, and so he sent us out to help. And so that's another case of Xander. Even though he kind of has more at stake than anybody else, he's the crown prince.
Right.
Kind of Garen's harsh spotlight is on him more than anyone else, but he still is risking everything to help Corrin, even though obviously he knows it's not his blood brother or sister.
Now, every now and then when an attack finishes, there's like a little heart that pops up on the characters. That's an indicator that the relationship between the two of them has just grown a little bit stronger by virtue of whatever it is that they did. Healing will do that. Fighting side by side will do that. You'll probably see a little bit more of that during this demo, but it's, you know, it's just another visual cue that you're building something permanent between these two characters.
That's always a challenge for me when I play these games, because I want to see all of the extra side conversations. So everyone has to be friends with everybody, and every once in a while it's like, okay, I just have to do these battles, and you two have to be friends, so you guys are going to go over here and just stay there until you're friends.
It's funny, from a localization standpoint, like, we know how much text there is in this game. We know how much, like, how many character relationships there are, and we know how many most people are going to see. And so, like, whenever I play the game, even though I've seen a lot of the relationships, there are ones that I just kind of want to, like, rebuild them and watch them play out because they're just so much fun.
It's true. That's right. We know there's so much text. So very much text.
So very much.
And I don't know if you noticed, but when it zooms in on your battle, it's actually zooming into where you are on the map. So in Awakening, it would kind of go to a set of predetermined areas. Here, it's actually going to where you are on the map. If you're by the water, it's going to be by the water when you're watching them battle. If you're on a bridge, it's going to be on a bridge. So that's a nice little addition.
Yeah, I like the way that it helps to set the scene and gives you a real sense of, like, being on that battlefield. That came up during the My Castle demo too in our previous Treehouse live session, where you get a chance to, like, get down on the ground and actually look around you. I love the way in which these little technical enhancements build up your sense of place and your sense of, like, position on the battle.
Sure. And I want to make a quick note while we're going through this battle. I'm being really careful because I don't want to lose anybody. But this game actually has Amiibo support, and it's really interesting. If you played, you know, if you're a Fire Emblem fan, you might have the Marth or Lucina, Robin, or Ike Amiibo. And in this game, you can actually...
In any way, shape, or form.
No
Not
one
that
here
you
is
are.
obsessed with Crom.
I've seen your mouse pad. I know you're a Crom man.
Whoa. Whoa. No more accusations, people. Nobody has Crom as their screensaver.
Not at all. So have you guys decided yet if you're going to start Hoshido or Nor? Or is this still a decision that you have to weigh?
I'm personally gonna go Norpath, but that's the one I'm working on, so maybe I'm a little
A little prejudiced.
A little biased.
I don't know. Today I'm going to say Norpath. Who knows how I'll feel tomorrow
Yeah, it's true.
after.
And the thing is, as a Fire Emblem fan, even though I'm working on this title, you're gonna want to play both, because even though each game is a full, complete Fire Emblem experience, and the longest Fire Emblem experience to date, by the way, each version is 28 chapters. That's longer than any previous game. So each game is a full amount of content. But even so, if you love this world and love these characters, then you're probably going to want to play both versions just so you can see what happened if I had chosen the different decision. What are these other characters who I don't maybe get to spend as much time with like? So there's no losing, really.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that both games are very different experiences. It's not just that you're playing the same battles and, okay, you're on this side of the map or that side of the map. You're going through a really complex story, no matter which kingdom you're a part of. And it's not a binary good guys, bad guys kind of thing. So you're going to see a really rich experience of just this world and what's going on in it, no matter sort of where you fit into the grander scheme of this huge war that's going on.
And it's fun to see if you do go down both paths. It's fun to see the way characters from one path that you've already met on your previous playthrough, to see how they show up and to see what they're doing when you're following a different path.
Oh no!
It's a little rough when you get the cold shoulder from your favorite, and you're just like, but we're so close.
Don't hit reset.
Elise.
Don't hit reset.
Oh, my baby sister. Okay,
Oh,
this
dear.
is live, so I'm not gonna do anything, but
After we turn the camera off, we're hitting the power button and we're bringing her back.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be allowed to talk while playing. Poor Elise.
We distracted you with Crom Talk. It's I take
I hope she
responsibility.
forgives me.
So this is something we can see here now that you've got some mounted units and some units are on foot. The distance that they're able to travel per turn is really different depending on whether or not they're walking or they're riding there. And it can take quite a while sometimes, I think, to decide, okay, I've got this many enemies ahead of me, how am I going to organize them? And also, you can see really clearly on this map, there are different choke points. So maybe you want somebody who's really burly and tanky to just block off an entrance so enemies aren't going to be able to get to your weaker characters, but you need to put so much thought into how you're going to deal with whatever's coming up on you the battlefield.
Or maybe you're like me and you want to build a relationship between two characters that just has no place in the game. And then you just wind up pairing up exactly the wrong people together just so you can see how ridiculous their conversation is going to be.
Honestly, when I was playing Awakening, I had a chart with everyone's name so I could make sure everybody's got to be friends.
Got to get all those letters filled out.
Yeah, before you hit S rank, it was like, okay, I want everyone to be super best buds, and then we'll deal with their S rank situation.
That can wait.
I have all your futures planned for
I
you.
have an Excel doc where I'm like, this person's going to be with this person, and this person's going to be with that one. And I am always going to be with Crom. And that's an Awakening.
Always, forever.
That's a different story.
Wow, that
I
was.
wish Silas too. I really need to stop talking.
This is a good opportunity to show the realism and the grittiness of the Fire Emblem universe.
That's true. That's true.
It's a savage world.
It's savage. So we're going to get our revenge.
I don't know if we've shown it yet, but the next time we come into combat, there's actually a little bit of a preview that gives you a general sense of how the battle might go. And it's not a guarantee, but it can be really handy when you're coming up an enemy that you're not familiar with and you're wondering, okay, how mismatched is this pairing? Does this character of mine have a really good chance against this enemy, or am I getting them in way out of their league?
All right,
So you're going to go up and heal Arthur.
I think we're running low on time, but this is just a sneak peek of Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. Tomorrow we're going to take a look at the Hoshido path, Fire Emblem Fates Birthright. So it's going to be a very, very different story than the one you saw today. So we hope you'll come back and take a look.
Even aesthetically, looking at the Hoshido path, it's a very different life that you choose.
It's a different
if you
life.
decide to go in that direction.
Different
But
fate.
Thank you so much for showing us a little sneak peek here of what we're going to see on the Nor path. And yeah, folks, please stay tuned for Hoshido coming tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing that, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And do stay tuned. We're going to be coming back with some more gameplay really shortly. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
See you soon.